And with that, a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the beautiful sights and the beautiful sounds of the Africa that we all love. Directly behind me, the sounds in your ears getting you going on this beautiful Thursday morning. My name is Dwayne, and once again, most certainly is a huge honor to be here this morning as part of the SpeakersInc.com Global Speakers Showcase. This is week number 3. Today, we are presenting the 5th speaker in the series. So on behalf of Bronwyn and Duncan from Speakers Inc., a very good morning to you. It is now officially 2 minutes past 9 on a Thursday morning. We are, in fact, right now bringing you the next of our speakers as we showcase speakers from all around the world and give you the opportunity to find that exact speaker for your next event. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where the magic happens. Before we continue, what I would like to do is remind you of a couple of things. First of all, once the talk is done this morning, it will be around 20 minutes. Once that talk is done, you have the opportunity then to ask us a couple of questions. Ask Lorne a couple of questions. More particularly, I've given you the first name, so if you didn't already know why you logged in this morning, you do know now. His name is Lorne. I'll give you more details in a second. A whole bunch of opportunities as well. Once this particular broadcast is over, you have the opportunity then to go to speakersinc.com, go to the website, look up Lorne, find this particular podcast. This particular episode will be there, all nicely put together so that you can look at that view, that footage all over again, and of course make the decision as to when you'd like to book Lorne for your next engagement as well. Talk to Bronwyn and Duncan. Like I said, they'll give you all the details. They'll obviously contact you, give you whatever you might need insofar as this speaker and all of the other speakers are concerned as part of the Global Speakers Showcase. Now, without any further ado, I would like to introduce to you today the gentleman who is going to be talking about, well, wait, it goes like this. It's a great thrill for me to introduce our very uniquely African keynote speaker today. Since 1996, he has spoken on the world's biggest stages to organizational giants, from Sony to NASA to the World Bank. He's been featured on CNN. He's an internationally awarded wildlife photographer. He is happily married with 2 kids, drives a double cab diesel pickup, and eats large amounts of chocolate. But he's a rare expert. For nearly a decade, Lorne Sulcas was a game ranger, tracking, observing, and photographing Africa's big 3 cats on a daily basis. Today, Lorne speaks all over the world, sharing million-year-old success secrets from these super predators with top organizations, teams, and athletes. He's come all the way from South Africa, especially to be with us today, helping us to thrive in our wild world. Please, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome the Big Cat Guy, international speaker, and wannabe husband of the year. Please welcome Lorne Sulcas.
So I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I get a call on my cell phone, and I see on the screen that it's a 1404 area code. And I'm thinking, who could be calling me from Atlanta, Georgia? So I actually lived in the United States, started my speaking business there, and spoke a lot on the East Coast, so I was very familiar with the Atlanta, Georgia area code. And the call goes something like this. Hello? Is this the Big Cat Guy? So I go, yes, this is Lorne Sulcas. How can I help? And she says, this is Andrea from CNN. And what had happened was someone had been attacked by a mountain lion in Colorado. And so they gave me a call to ask me if I would appear on Prime News to comment as a big cat expert on what had happened. And CNN have actually been calling me ever since, every time someone gets eaten. And actually, you guys will appreciate this. When NASA hired me to be the keynote speaker at several of their international project management conferences, I'd actually already been speaking to and training teams in the leadership and corporate jungle for a long time, and I'd spent a lot of years prior as a long-time game ranger, wildlife photographer, in what I always call the oldest and most successful marketplace, nature, the African bushveld. And so during my time as a ranger and a guide in a private reserve within the Kruger National Park, an area called Sabi Sabi, very important to mention your sponsors, during that time, I started a research project to study the area's lion, leopard, and cheetah populations, to try and understand a little bit more about what makes these big cats so incredible at surviving brutal change and constant competition. And so for 6 years, I photographed their faces, I monitored their movements, tracked their behaviors, their territories, their feeding habits, their prey selection, their predator interaction. You know what I realized? The wild world, the jungle, that Africa's great beasts have been thriving in for millions of years is just like our wild world. It's just like our jungle. Challenging, changing, competitive, and full of opportunity. And the behaviors and the strategies that the four-legged kind of wild animals have been doing and using for eons to thrive in this wild world have clearly been working for all those millions of years, which is not a bad track record to learn from, right? A few million years. And so what I do is I speak around the world, now virtually, of course, as well, at conferences and meetings. But I do something a little different. I share nature's age-old brilliance. Million-year-old success lessons, specifically from the three big cats, the leopard, the lion, and the cheetah, supreme hunters. Today, I'm going to kind of narrow things down a little bit, and I'm going to touch on a few of those lessons specifically that I hope will help you in your work, in your life, around what it takes to thrive in a wild world, a challenging world, a changing world, a competitive world, with exceptional results. Yes, look at his expression. By the way, when your tracker or a guest gets eaten by a lion, it's not that good for business, if you know what I mean. Not a lot of repeat customers coming back. So one of the advantages of the private reserve within the Kruger National Park was our ability to go off-road and to track the animals. And so every ranger guide worked with a tracker. And this is a tracker sitting on a seat that we had welded onto the front of the vehicle. And the tracker's job was not just to look at the side of the road to see what animals he might spot. His job was to look at the road as well, to look for fresh spoor, footprints, any evidence of the big five. Now, the big five are the 5 most dangerous animals to hunt on foot. That's how they get their name. But when people come on safari, there's an enigma and a mystery around seeing the big 5, and those tend to be the 5 animals that 5 of millions of organisms in the ecosystem, but those 5 tend to be ones that folks want to see. And so we spent a lot of time tracking the big 5. And those big 5 are lion, leopard, elephant, rhino, and buffalo. The process of tracking was one where the tracker sat on the front of the vehicle on that seat. If he found fresh tracks, he would alert the guide, and we would examine the tracks. If the tracks were fresh enough, we would follow those tracks on foot, leaving the guests in the vehicle where they're perfectly safe, provided they don't decide to get up and go walkies. If we found the animal on foot, we would return to the vehicle, drive with the guests to the place where we last saw that animal, and in an attempt to relocate it, and then hopefully be able to show that animal or that group of animals to the guests. And I had the privilege of working for about 6 years with one of the finest trackers, specifically of the big 5, that I ever had the privilege to know. His name was Enoch Ngwenya, and Enoch was an absolute gem of a human being, a wonderful man who unfortunately or fortunately didn't read or write. He didn't speak any English. But over time, he and I developed a really special working relationship. And he was an absolute genius. He was an artist. He could see tracks. He had a sixth sense about animals that in all the books I could ever read, I would never learn. And he really taught me everything I knew about tracking. And so the tracking process allowed us to get very close to the animals. Just raise your hand virtually, of course, if you have been up close and personal with Africa's Big Five, and in particular with the big cats. Okay. In the marketplace of nature, he who hesitates is, no, not lost, lunch. You either eat or you get eaten. Even at the top of the food chain, even for these predators, everyone is feeding off the same menu. The leopard here in this picture is not the only predator to eat the impala in this picture. Everything wants to eat impala. Leopard, lion, cheetah, wild dog, hyena, they all prey on impala. And so everyone is hunting in the same market. And it's fiercely, sometimes fatally, competitive. And so these big cats live amidst chaos and change 24/7. Now, each of the big cats is behaviorally, physiologically, strategically very different from one another. But the one thing that they all do share in common is their longevity. Any idea what the lifespan is of one of these big cats in the wild? It's about 12 to 17 years, depending on the species. Not a long time. And so these big cats have to make the time count. They have to make every day, every hunt count. And there's only one thing that matters: how to get results. And getting results takes two things. It takes strategy and it takes action. It takes work. If you don't hunt, you don't eat. Lions, of course, are the only truly social cats. They're the only of the cat species that live and hunt together as a team, collaborating, synergizing their efforts to allow them to hunt the massive herbivores: kudu, wildebeest, zebra, giraffe, buffalo. In some areas in Botswana, there are prides of lions that specialize in hunting adult elephant. Pretty incredible. And this, of course, is one of the main reasons it's thought that lions have evolved a social structure, is that through that collaboration, through that synergy, lions can hunt prey no other predator can. Lions can get exceptional results. Exceptional results come from exceptional teamwork. And I'm not talking about a pseudo team, a working group. I'll never forget, if you're a soccer fan, maybe you'll remember this. I think it was about 2013 when the African Cup of Nations was being held here in South Africa. And the manager, the coach of Bafana Bafana, our national soccer team, our national football team, was a guy by the name of Gordon Ingersant. And Gordon Ingersant made a statement that was splashed across the headline of every newspaper on the internet, on every telephone pole where there was a headline, a newspaper headline. He said this: Bafana Bafana are not yet a team. I don't know if you saw this or will remember it, but it stuck with me. What did he mean by that? You know, I speak at conferences all around the world, and many times I speak at sales conferences where there'll be 1,000 delegates in the audience, all of whom are wearing the exact same shirt with their logo. Just because they're all wearing the same logo does not make them a team. Just because Bafana Bafana were wearing the same yellow and green shirts, golden green shirts, does not make them a team. I'm talking about when the team is tight. When the members of the team have got each other's back like this, when they look out for each other, when the levels of morale and communication and trust are high, massively high, when the members of the team trust each other. Because where there's trust, there's confidence. And where there's confidence, there's performance. And so an exceptional team is all about exceptional relationships. And lions are relationship experts. And they are constantly reinforcing the bonds between the members of that team, of their pride. They are constantly reinforcing those relationships. They're very physical. They rub up against each other, like in this picture. They lie on top of each other. They stalk each other. They're licking each other, like here. They're playing with each other. We're going to do all of this, by the way, virtually afterwards. The stalking might not work so well. I hear on social media you can get locked up for that. A team is only as strong as its weakest member. In an exceptional team, every single member of that team, regardless of their role, every member of the team is exceptionally important, and every member of the team is exceptionally potent. Have a look at this female. This is 130 kilograms of brute strength, pure power. Lions are on the Atkins diet. Maybe you remember the Atkins diet. High protein for muscle building. I keep telling my wife I want biceps like this lady. This is a lean, mean, killing machine, folks. Have a look at her paw. Lions have massive paws. One swipe of that paw, she'll break a wildebeest's back just like that. Out of those paws are retractable claws that are razor sharp. They're weapons. They're like daggers. I was once guiding in Namibia, in Etosha National Park, and there are a lot of zebra in Etosha National Park and a lot of lions. And I watched a lioness jump on a zebra's back, and she stuck those dagger-like claws into the rump, into the flesh, through the skin of that zebra. And the zebra, it's a horse, it kicks with its rear legs, and it kicked the lioness into her chest, and she rebounded, but she had those claws so deep inside the skin that within 1 second there were blood marks down the side of that zebra. Her speed, she'll do 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds. She'll make, our boy in South Africa, Wade van Niekerk, our athlete, our Olympian record holder, sprinter, 400-meter distance. She'll make him look like he's having a casual stroll. This is a powerful, potent predator. And in lion's case, it's no accident that every single member of that team is powerful and potent. Because here's what happens. Lions have what's called a synchronized estrus period. What that means in English is all the lionesses in one pride come into heat at the same time. So they all conceive at more or less the same time. Obviously not exactly the same. I presume I don't need to explain that to you. And they all give birth more or less at the same time. So within about 2 weeks to 2 months, all the cubs are born into that pride together. And there's kind of like a flooding of the market of young lions. And that creates internal competition. From day one, these lion cubs have to compete with one another for resources. First for milk, nipples. Hope I can say that. Mom only has a finite number of them. And then as they get to 3, 4, 5 months old, they start eating meat, and that's a very finite resource. And so that internal competition ensures that these cubs develop some serious survival skills. And it's only the strongest that will make it. In a tough marketplace, the weak don't survive. There's no room for passengers. Like in this picture, that little fellow right at the back, that's a passenger. Passengers actually just hold the whole team back. Sometimes we have to make tough decisions to get rid of what holds us back. If we're serious about the exceptional results in a team situation, it's about having every member of the team willing and able. Every member of the team's contribution is critical. It's about having the right qualified, quality team players. It doesn't matter whether you're a lion or an antelope. When the sun starts to set, you'd better be running. Folks, just like the big cats, if you don't hunt, you don't eat. Thriving in a wild world is about making things happen, getting out of the comfort zone, synergizing, and staying focused on results. And just like for the big cats, folks, life is short. Please, start running. Make it count. Make things happen. Make a difference. Great being with you.
What I'm going to do is very, very quickly give you a big round of applause because that was absolutely enthralling and I think it deserves one of those. Everybody online and otherwise, I think that round of applause needs to happen about now. So there we go, our cast of thousands and thousands, giving you that round of applause. Lorne, first up, thank you very much for being with us this morning, part of the Global Speakers Inc. Showcase. You are number 5 in the series, but this particular one, obviously, for me, being a good old South African boy, really does hit home. It really does. A couple of things that came up, and I'm going to go to a couple of questions in the chat group. But right now, the one thing that really did strike me towards the end was, where does fear sit with the big cats? I mean, obviously, they're these incredibly powerful animals, and they take their chances. They hunt in packs. They do what they do. Is there a space for fear? Because so many people are a little bit scared of living outside of what they know as day-to-day living, their day-to-day experiences. They're scared of pushing those boundaries. There's fear. In the lion's world, in the big cat world, where does fear fit?
That's a brilliant question. You know, obviously, we can't get inside those big cats' heads. But one thing I can tell you is that after watching lions, leopards, cheetahs for many, many, many years, individuals actually have different personalities, just like humans do. And there are, there are some lions that are extremely bold. There are some that are a little bit more reticent. And that's a function largely of the way that they are raised and the prey that they're hunting. But I think that, the one thing that we do know is that whether you're a lion or a leopard, a cheetah, any of the big cats, any of the predators hunting in a wild environment, there is constantly the element of the unknown. So every single hunt is different. Every single hunt presents a whole set of different circumstances, and there's always trepidation. There's always uncertainty, and it's the big cats that have the ability to deal with that uncertainty the best, and to deal with change, that are able to survive. So do they have fear? I don't know. But you can sometimes see in their different personalities the way some might be a little bit more hesitant, some might be a little bit more bold in the way that they hunt.
But I suppose, again, because of the teamwork aspect you were talking about, the fear is then obviously covered up in certain of those animals. If they are scared, it will then get surrounded, and it will get the teamwork, again, will cover that fearful aspect, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. And, I made a statement there, where there's trust, there's confidence, and where there's confidence, there's performance. And so where there's trust between the members of the team, that gives them a confidence, it gives them a boldness, and it gives them the internal strength and mojo to be successful in the hunts and pursue big prey that's scary, prey that's challenging.
And I suppose, again, just last topic, really, last comment on the theme, I suppose that fear will diminish the more they try, the more they live, and the more they experience it, the fear will diminish.
Absolutely, exactly right. And so, and that's like anything. That's, we can take that into our work world, our personal world. We have fears, we have approach avoidance to certain things, and oftentimes once we just tackle them, we find that actually, what was I even worried about? Why was I concerned about that? And it's
Sure.
no different for the big cats. They have to practice, they have to put in the repetition, they have to fail a lot. And all of the big cats, and in particular lions, are huge failures. In fact, lions, of the 3 big cats, lions are the least successful. About 30% of their hunts only are successful, and that means they have to put in those repetitions and work out what works and what doesn't.
Now that rings true. It really does. For the human race itself, that really does ring true. Something in the chat group, I haven't been face to face with any big cats or wildlife for that matter, so this is really quite cool. Thanks, Lorne. How did you get the amazing photographs, and can I tag along next time you're in the wild? I think this might be a 2-part question, and I think you might be a bit more enthusiastic about the one than the other.
Well, not necessarily. Yes, the photographs, as I've said to my wife many times, if you're in the bush for as long as I've been lucky enough to be in the bush over many, many, many years, even if you're not such a great photographer, you're probably going to get 1 or 2 good pictures. But wildlife photography is a very it's quite an underestimated skill in a way, in that it's a composite of several skills. The major one, I think, for me, what's really helped me, and I've had some good luck over many years with international wildlife photography awards and competitions, and I think the reason that I've had some good luck is I've made my luck. And with wildlife photography, it's very much a case of being patient. It's a case of understanding the animal's habits and movements so that you can predict what they might or might not do, so that you can be ready to take that photograph in the exact moment. And so it's something that I absolutely love. It's kind of a combination of my love of just being in the bush and understanding animal behavior, and it's actually related to the second question, because I don't get to the bush as much as I used to. Obviously, my speaking schedule keeps me on the road quite a lot. I do fortunately get to some nice places when I'm speaking in South Africa often, because of the nature of what I do. The theme kind of ties in with when conferences are being held in the bush, and then I get invited to maybe be the keynote speaker at a conference that I'm in the bush. Often I'm sort of flying in and flying out, so I don't get to spend quality time necessarily always. But I get to go on the odd game drive and back, I have my camera in my hand when I do. And I've been guiding in East Africa for 27 years now. I've done more or less one trip a year to Tanzania, mostly to see the great wildebeest migration, and run what I've called big cat safaris. It's not my core business, but I've done it just because people know that I do it. And so I get back to the bush, and again, it's just about time in the bush. I always say, if you're in the bush enough, you'll see the stuff. That's my motto, and you have to be patient and immerse yourself in it, and then good things will always happen.
You've just landed on the word I was going to bring up a little earlier in your response: patience. And I think, as in life, patience, in fact, the wonderful combination of patience and luck are the two things you mentioned right up front. Patience with the big cats, same type of situations. Are they very patient in the hunt?
Absolutely. I mean, I've sat, firstly, one has to understand their nature. Cheetahs, for example, are of the big cats. They're the only truly diurnal hunters. So they hunt in the daytime, as opposed to lions and leopards that tend mostly to hunt at nighttime. Their retinal structure, their ocular structure is such that they have something called a tapetum lucidium, which is almost like another layer inside their eye. It's like another retina, and it helps them adjust the cones and the rods in a ratio that allows them to see impeccably well at nighttime, and that gives them a massive advantage. So understanding firstly their habits and when they're going to hunt will also allow you to be able to see the results. If you're hoping that a lion's going to hunt in the heat of the day, they might opportunistically, but generally they won't. So it's very important to understand that so that you can maximize your opportunities. And when we go on safari, obviously we take that into account, and we're going on game drives during the extremes of the day, the very early mornings, the late afternoon into the evening, where the predators are more likely to be hunting, and then you maximize your chances of seeing great stuff.
Lorne, please forgive me if I missed this in your talk itself. Do you have a collection of all of those photographs? Is there a book form of all of these photographs? I mean, you must have some beautiful stuff.
Thank you. Yes, the book is going to be published, I'm hoping, this year. I'm in the process of writing three books. They'll all be photographic in nature, some a little bit more, some a bit more kind of content rich, with more focus on the kind of learnings and the lessons that we can take into our own work and personal lives, and some more kind of photographic and motivational. So watch the space, it's coming.
Oh, I most certainly will. I want that book immediately, definitely. The last thing I'm going to make comment on, just make sure in the chat group there was nothing else. No, not at this point. This is quite interesting. I like this. You talked a lot about the lionesses. What about the male lions? Now, I don't know exactly where the question is going, but as you hear it, what do you think?
Okay, yeah. Look, obviously we were talking about teamwork, and the nucleus of a lion pride is that female, a bunch of females, all of whom are related, so they all share genes, and that's very important because they kind of have a vested interest in one another. And that right there, the idea of being vested in the process and having a vested interest in one another is critical to the functioning of any team. And lions have it because they have it genetically. Obviously in a showcase situation, in any situation, and even if I'm giving a keynote in a conference, there's a limited amount of time and there's only so much ground we can cover. And so, we didn't even get a chance to talk about the extraordinary vision and leadership of the cheetah today, nor the incredible resilience of the leopard and the way it adapts to change. And all of those are, wonderful lessons that we can learn with regards to, our own lives in the corporate world, in and out of the corporate world, in our personal lives. So, by the same token, I only had time to really talk about the teamwork aspect, which involves especially the lionesses. However, the male lions are a critical part of the lion natural history, in that the males also fill a very important role in the success of that team, in that they serve a much more protective role. They have a much bigger home range. They spend a lot of time, sometimes nomadic. There are some males that actually are what we call pride males, where they stay only with a pride, but mostly the males, certainly in Southern Africa, a little bit different to East Africa, but mostly the males in Southern Africa form coalitions. And those coalitions right there are kind of mini teams where they might break away from their natal pride. Usually that happens around 2.5, 3 years old. They actually get kicked out of the pride by their own fathers, because at 2.5 or 3 years old, they're kind of big enough to want to mate with their mothers and their sisters. And so they get kicked out. And during the period of, let's call it 3 years old to about 6 years old, which is the time at which male lions will wrest a territory from another male lion. They'll vanquish him and conquer him and take over that territory. Male lions are in their prime and around 6 or 7 years old. So that period is a vital period. Many male lions die between the age of 3 to 6, because during that period they've got to fend for themselves. They've got to move through the territories of other dominant male lions. And so by the time they've reached 6 years old, they are strong. They've learned how to hunt on their own. There's a myth surrounding male lions that they're very lazy. They do nothing. They just let the females do the hunting. That is not true at all. Male lions are extremely capable, extremely strong, extremely powerful. And, by the time they get to that age of 6 years old, they've developed all the skills that a lioness has and more. But it's kind of a division of labor there, where the males will patrol that territory. They'll protect it from other lions. They'll protect it from hyenas that might want to kill their own cubs. And that process of the division of labor ensures that the species as a whole moves on into the next generation, and that it's only the strongest of those species that are surviving and moving on into the next generation.
Thank you, Lorne. One more thing, if you don't mind. If I had to go 2 more questions, if you've got a couple of minutes for us.
Sure.
The one is, I'm going to expand ever so slightly on that one, because yes, today you focus really on the lions, but you talk about the 3 big cats. Are there, when you do the full talk, do you really find huge differences between the way they behave, the 3 different cats? Are there big differences and obviously big similarities?
There are huge differences, and I would say there are probably more differences than there are similarities. We can just start very quickly with some of the similarities. Obviously, their physiology, they're feline animals. They are, they share certain characteristics. The Panthera species, which of the 3 African big cats includes just the lion and the leopard. The Panthera species actually are the species that have what we would call a kind of roar to their vocal sounds. And that is because they have, it's kind of, in layperson's terms, they have kind of a loose bone inside their throat that vibrates, and that vibration creates that resonance in the sound. They behaviorally, there's leopard and lion are similar in that they tend to be crepuscular or nocturnal, so they're hunting during the very cool hours of the day or at nighttime. Cheetahs, on the other hand, are not part of the Panthera species. They don't have that that resonating sound in their vocal call. They don't hunt at night, and they don't have the retractable claws that lion and leopard have. So yes, there are similarities. The major differences are in their physiology. Lions are just so much bigger. You know, a lioness, as I mentioned in the talk, is about 130 kilograms. A male lion is about 230 kilograms. A very big leopard would be a very big male leopard would probably be in the region. There have been some recorded at about 90 kilograms, but that's an anomaly. A leopard is actually a pretty small animal. They're ranging in the bushveld areas of South Africa. They're ranging between about 45 and 70 kilograms. A cheetah is a little bit slightly heavier, but not much. But their physiology is completely different to the leopard. They have, you know, the long legs, very thin, narrow, slight body, not much musculature, as opposed to the leopard that is incredibly big. It's much lower to the ground. Their hunting styles are completely different. So the cheetah uses its speed, hunting at a much greater distance away from its prey. The leopard, on the other hand, is the complete antithesis of that. It stalks to within just a couple of meters of its prey, followed by, you know, bam, a lightning fast chase over a shorter distance. So their modus operandi, and then lions, where the major difference is, lions are the truly social cats. They're hunting together as a team. And so there are loads of differences, and you don't just, aside from the fact that people at a distance might think a leopard and a cheetah, for example, even look the same, they don't even look the same. So there are, I would say, more differences than there are similarities. And obviously, when I'm doing the talk about either the cheetah or the lion, depending on what the client's needs are, I talk specifically about change and the ways in which the leopard adapts to change. And when it comes to cheetah, because they're not physically very muscled, they actually find themselves lower down, right at the bottom of the totem pole of the large predators, actually. And so the way that they deal with competition, which of course in the corporate world is a very important topic, and the way that they deal with competition, the vision that the cheetah has to be able to raise their young in such a way that they can deal with this intense competition is, some of the lessons that I would touch on there out of when I'm talking about the leopard and the cheetah, respectively.
Well, Lorne, you have been so gracious, so kind with your time this morning. Thank you so very much for being with us. I will tell you, though, now that I've heard you say a couple of things about those other big cats, I really want to see the full talk. And I'm assuming, of course, like you said, clients' needs, that's really the way the talk is built. So thank you very much. And what is going to happen now is I'm going to physically say thank you very much on behalf of Lorne, Duncan, and Bronwyn for being with us this morning. We have the opportunity once again to be able to go straight to the website, which is speakersinc.com, find all the information on Lorne, find out more about those talks, how you can book Lorne for your particular engagement. Have a wonderful Thursday. Lorne, once again, you're a fascinating guy, and I can see why you're so passionate. What a lovely, lovely subject. I'm looking forward to the book. So whatever you do, please remind us when that book is available. Ladies, gentlemen, have a lovely, lovely day. It's Thursday. Have a good one. We will see you again next week for the next week of our Global Speakers Inc. Showcase series. Next Wednesday, next Thursday. See you there. Cheers.